This is Emory. Hope you'll enjoy these clips, and then we'll stay tuned for a full-length presentation. The client's theme was a casual cruise, and the topics were leadership, change, and customer service. I'd love to design a presentation for you. Give us a call and let's talk about it. My childhood was extremely annoying. My parents were 20 years older than all of my friends' parents. Obviously, a totally disgusting situation. And we couldn't afford a television. And so we had to do things like sing songs and write plays and read books and take walks. And every night we had to sit around the dinner table, all of us together. My friends were lucky. They got to watch television all the time. And then in the summer, before I entered the 7th grade, like a Carolina pine, I shot right up to the height I am today, and I hated it. I hated it. Because I figured that nobody would ever marry me. They wouldn't dance with me, so I figured they probably wouldn't marry me either. I didn't like one thing about my height, but that wasn't all. As we say in the South, I did not pube very early. Problem with my lack of shape was exacerbated by the fact that Mattel had just invented the Barbie doll. The classic, original Barbie doll. And I can remember looking at this delicate, feminine, early pubing creature and praying, "Oh Lord, just let me grow up and look like Barbie." And I grew up looking a whole lot more like Ken. I did not like my height, and I did not like my shape, but that wasn't all. My name was Emory. Who ever heard of a girl named Emory? A university maybe, a freight line maybe, but not a girl. And I looked all around me at these delicate, early pubing feminine creatures who had everything that I wanted and nothing that I would ever have. They had the clothes and the heights and the shapes and the boyfriends and the names. Names I was surrounded with, like Gwendolyn and Michelle and Patricia and Evelyn and Sarah and Holly and Molly and Dolly and Polly. I want to see your hand. If you're sitting in this room this morning and your name is Lisa, would you please put it in the air? That's the name I wanted. I would have given anything to have been named Lisa, the prettiest name I had ever heard. It just sort of dances through the mind, doesn't it? But my name wasn't Lisa. It was Emory. And when I was a senior in high school, I got a draft notice. It was not funny. And I can remember standing there with that draft notice in my hand, glaring at my parents and thinking maybe they couldn't do anything about the combination of genes and chromosomes that was going to keep me single forever, because I grew up in the era in which success for women was measured pretty much by whether or not they were more or less permanently attached to a male individual. And I figured that would never be my lot in life, and there was a draft notice, one more bit of proof that nothing I had fit, nothing that I had was ever going to work for me. I might as well close up the scrapbooks and the lock boxes and the treasures and all the rest of it, condemned by the RNA and the DNA over which I had no control. I didn't like anything about myself when I was a child, and I believed that it would keep me forever from blending in or fitting in anywhere. Have any of you ever felt that way? Isn't life ironic? There is absolutely no way today that I would change my parents' age, my family life, our lack of television, my height, or any of those other things, my fabulous name that my family gave me, or anything else in the world, because life and experience and the legacy that I was given have taught me that whatever it is that you have that's different is the same thing that contains your power. And I almost missed it. The things about you that make you a little uncomfortable contain treasures that are worth exploring. And for heaven's sake, and I say that literally, every child in your life, you go right back from this workshop and you tell them that they're absolutely okay with the gifts that they have, and maybe if we could do a better job of that, our teenagers wouldn't also need to escape into the sneakers with the right logo or the jackets that they are killing for, and would instead look in the mirror and see their rarity and their gifts and their treasures and their legacy, and all of it starts right where you are. My dad, in his best year of teaching at Wake Forest, probably never made more than about $20,000 a year. And so every August, he spent what must have been an astonishing proportion of his salary buying the finest stationery available anywhere. It was heavy, it was cream-colored, high rag content, beautiful watermark, the kind of stationery, remember, that had edges that looked like they had been torn. And then he had spent even more money having his name and the name of his department not printed and not embossed, but engraved across the top of every one of those beautiful pieces of paper. And every time I'd turn a piece of it around the platen in that old Underwood, I knew how much money that represented for my family. And I was so careful not to mess any of them up. Every freshman that was due to arrive at Wake Forest in September got in August a letter from my father. Every one of them, 100% of the arriving freshman class. He didn't care if they planned to major in phys ed, in art, in science, in the ministry, in law, in medicine. He made no arrogant assumptions as to who should or shouldn't get the letter. Have you ever made an arrogant assumption that might have cost somebody else a little piece of their souls? Don't ever do that. He made no such assumptions. And so every August I typed, well, over the 4 years I was in high school, I bet I typed thousands of those letters on that beautiful stationery complete with carbons to be filed and followed up on forever. And you remember how we used to be able to tell if a letter had been individually typed? All you had to do was turn it over on the back. And if the periods came through, you knew that somebody, as we say at Hallmark, cared enough to send their very best. For the 4 years that I was in high school, we sent our very best on a letter individually typed that went like this. Dear Lisa, some things you never get away from. Dear Lisa, glad you're coming to Wake Forest. Hope you'll take my course. Whether you do or whether you don't, I just wanted you to know how glad we are that you chose Wake Forest. If you have any problems scheduling the classes that your advisor says you'll need, come find me in the gym on registration day, and I'll go with you to make certain that we get every one of those classes on your list. A new campus can be an intimidating place. My wife and daughters and I have lived here for years and would love to show you around. If you get hungry for some of Mama's cooking, my wife can always put another cup of water in the soup. And if you just want somebody to talk to, you'll notice that my door is always open. And he ended every letter by saying, I am so glad you're coming to Wake Forest. Registration day is a big day for both of us. And when registration day was over and all the class rolls were in place, every September, my dad's classes were jam-packed with students. There they were, squeezed into every available seat, lined up all the way around the walls, and spilling out into the hallways. And as Paul Harvey would say, the